Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is Sprinklebeard, and tonight it is late, so it is very thematic that we cover the Dark Tank, the Headless Sentinel Baron. Baron is a very, very interesting defender in this game. We're going to just jump right into his stats first off. So, in terms of attack and defense, he is a tank, so he is meant to block units. We do have a cost of 18, so he's not bad in terms of tanks. His attack speed is 2.4, and his attack is this 2500, right? It's not necessarily the best, it's not necessarily the worst. I don't want to compare him to Titus, but it's a normal amount of attack. And the reason I say that he's very unique when it comes to tanks is that what's strange is that his kit is kind of more based around doing damage rather than just tanking. So with that being said, there is some good flexibility in how you want to build him. He kind of builds more like a bruiser, where you want that HP and defense for survival, but then you can also throw damage on him, and he has a good potential to put out damage. So let's give him that quick review. So Baron is our Nightmare defender, and one of the biggest things about the Nightmare is that when you talk about their lord, they gain extra attack speed, right? So his basic attack is just attacks one enemy. Fantastic, it'll just do his damage. His passive is Immortal Wrath. Attacks deal extra damage. Upon receiving lethal damage, enters Unyielding, stays alive for 4 extra seconds. When Unyielding ends, deals AoE damage equal to 50% of the max HP to nearby enemies. This can be triggered up to 1 time per battle. Now, per battle to me means that you deploy him, and then the moment this goes off, it is gone forever, right? So he won't be able to gain it back. You can't retreat him and then resummon him back out to do this again. So understand that this is kind of like your fail-safe gimmick in this game of, I need to make sure I can live through something. So what is Unyielding? Because we haven't seen a champion with Unyielding. Will not die from taking damage. So kind of like those life-saving effects in like video games where like you cannot die if your HP drops below 0. He's in this boat. His HP will drop down to 1. He will not be taking any more damage during that time, and he will just survive. And in this case, he explodes for 50% of his damage, giving him one last hurrah before he goes. His ultimate casts a shield that can absorb damage equal to 70% of his max HP for 10 seconds. When the shield disappears or gets broken, it deals AoE damage 1 time. Now I wish that they would explain how much that AoE damage is, but again, this is where him as a tank specifically, I am going to guess that just like his passive, that it is scaling off of his HP. So, without knowing the exact numbers, right? His max HP shield starts at 70 and scales up to 100. And then, more specifically, his rage requirement is actually very, very low for a tank. Goes from 500 down to 400. And this specifically is amazing for him, especially with this death passive that he has. It means that he really wants to be in the thick of battle more than a lot of the other tanks. A lot of the other tanks are like, cool, I can be in battle. He has constant explosions in his kit. He wants to be doing something proactive, which I absolutely love. On his second skill, I did kind of forget to talk about some elements. His attacks deal extra damage. He has this like kind of a ghost that will attack over top of him as he swings his axe. So you'll do your normal swing, and then he'll have a second swing that happens that does reduced damage, but it is still extra damage. So this is one of those champions where if you want a tank, also a tank that can deal damage, this is one of those champions that I would say stack HP percentage, defense percentage, and then you could do things like crit or attack percent or crit damage even, right? Depending on whatever mental direction you want to go with him. So his Unyielding stays alive for 4 extra seconds. This can be extended by leveling him up. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 extra seconds added, so this can extend from 4 seconds to 8 seconds. And in this game, 4 seconds is enough for you to like live like the main attack or like the thing that would have killed you, right? 8 seconds is just like, no, you're not, I'm not moving. I'm not leaving. The other thing in here is that his dealing damage equal to 50% of his max HP gets increased by 5% here and then another 5% here. So it totals out at 60%. He has this very, very interesting kit. I've done a little testing with him, and he has proven himself as a tank already, so I'm excited to show that off. Let's go into his awakening to show off what else he can do. When it comes to his awakenings, his awakening 1, when shielded by evil armor, increases attack and defense by 15% each. So evil armor is his ultimate. So him gaining extra attack and defense during this time definitely means like you don't want to only stack HP percentage on him. You absolutely could stack HP percentage and then go like full attack with him, right? Go like attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, maybe even attack speed so that he takes even bigger advantage. His attack speed is 2.4, which is a little bit on the faster side compared to most champions. Not necessarily compared to most nightmares, but definitely good damage potential while in there. Defense plus 100. This is by far one of those ones where it's good. It's extra defensive stats. I do think that's really low though. And for how he's designed, I'm confused that it's just an extra 100 defense, but it does make him tankier. I'm not going to complain about it. Immortal Wrath duration plus 3 seconds. So now we can go from that 8 seconds of duration of just not dying to 11 seconds of not dying. So if it's one of those enemies that is getting through, or if there's things like Toreador that you are trying to kill, and only players who've gotten to Toreador will know what I mean by that, Baron can be this amazing tank. One of the other the two other huge instances that I'm just going to call out as passive is your dragon. If you are having trouble breaking through that dragon giant breath attack, right? Let's say you're going from Nightmare 1 to Nightmare 2, and you just cannot break through the second breath, and you're constantly like, I don't know what to do to push further. There is a gimmick strategy where you can unsummon the rest of your crew right before that giant inhalation starts. And the reason you do it right before the inhalation starts is you want as much time so that you can summon out your other champions as quickly as possible. So what you would do is you would unsummon a couple of them, make sure that you have Baron out, because if you dismiss everybody, the dragon wins. But you'd want to make sure to put Dragon out as quickly as possible and then unsummon absolutely everybody else. They will go on to that minute-long cooldown. The Dragon inhalation itself is like, I don't know, 15 or 20 seconds. It's a good long time. Then he breathes his fire, which is about 5 seconds long, meaning he easily outlives it. And specifically, that giant breath attack is a single damage attack, not a multi-damaging attack. Does not apply burn either. So champions like Baron or Decimus can cheese through it. They can just stand there and live through it. And then as you gain more of your champions back, you start resummoning them out to the battlefield again and reclaim your ground. Because then the dragon goes through his promotion, which is another like 15 seconds. So by that time, you are getting to the point where you can unsummon your whole party and start to resummon them into battle. You will lose some damage during this time, absolutely. But specifically what you're not doing is hitting the shield of the dragon and not failing against the dragon. This will let you get some extra blood crystals. I don't think that this is the best strategy for dragon, but I do want to put it out there, and it's definitely one of the giant niches that Baron specifically has, is just his inability to die. That if you need to kind of clutch out something, this Immortal Wrath is absolutely the most clutch skill of, nah, you're not getting through me. And as long as it's 1 to 2 enemies, Baron don't care. He's just gonna stand there and just never die. All damage reductions plus 5%. This is absolutely amazing. This makes him tanky on all fronts, so both the physical and the magic resistance. I didn't really mention his magic resistance, so his magic resistance at max level is 662. It's in a good place for an epic tank. However, right now in the game, there's not a lot of tanks that have good magic resistance, and there's no way for you to buff it outside of Awakening the Champion. So with that being said, if you're looking for a magic resistant tank, you would have to look elsewhere. However, his Undying and his ability to shield himself are extremely valuable. They are huge damage reductions in their own way. Him doubling his HP when you ult, right? Because you're gaining a shield for 70% or eventually 100% of his max HP, you are doubling his health. He is designed to not die from that point forward if you time that shield out properly. So there's a level in the campaign where you fight this giant, slow-moving, fireball-throwing witch in Campaign 9, and she was terrible for me to defeat. If you can set up the scenario where Baron gets out to fight against her, and you save that shield for when she does her 4 fireball attack, there is an easy potential that he could live through it. I can't guarantee that. I would kind of recommend a magic resistant tank in place, but I want to put out there that he is a tank. He is a giant HP boy with a giant shield that he can pop whenever he wants to. I do not need to back out. His final awakening recovers 50% of HP at the end of Immortal Restoration. So not only would this be a self-heal in his kit, but now instead of him hanging on for dear life and just not moving for a little bit, you would kind of come back with a vengeance and would have some good potential here. I don't necessarily love this as an Awakening 5. I really, really like this, yes. And I don't know where else I would put it. I hate to say this, I would almost want to put it with Awakening 3, because the 3 extra seconds, although it's nice, 4 seconds is fine, 8 seconds is fine, 11 seconds is just redonkulous. But the reason I say that is because this is a one-time passive, and then it's like permanently broken. Yes, you get that extra one time. I could definitely see this being very helpful in like Artifact Raid, or if you use him as a damage dealer in Dragon. I don't think that's the best use of him, but if you did, him gaining that extra 50% HP back would be quite useful and just cool. He's going to persist that much longer. High Springs. So next we're going to talk about where is Baron most useful. Now, I've done this with other tanks in other of my Evaluate the Epic tank guides. Understand this is not me trying to shorthand the usefulness of a tank. It is just the nature of a tank. So with that being said, where is he most useful? Anywhere you need a tank blocker, right? So in the campaign, there's tons and tons of content where he needs to block something, or you need to defend those crystals. So in the campaign, he is absolutely top tier. He's going to not be really challenged by many other tanks in that regard. And his ability to persist will let you get some cheesy wins under your belt for sure. So do not underestimate him here. In the Void Rift, we kind of have the same thing. Now, Void Rift does tend to swarm you in certain ways. So for that reason, he might not feel... he's not going to be like your top pick for like a defender. However, his ability to shield himself during those clutch moments can be huge. And in the Void Rift, having a shield mechanic often lets you survive much longer than you should. So with that being said, his ability to self-shield and double his HP during that time, I foresee that being amazing. In the arena, again, anywhere that you need a tank. So flying DPS, he would be out. You won't use him there. But things like the single target DPS, he is amazing. And then because he's also a damage dealing tank, you absolutely can use him there, or if you build him up as a damage dealer, not only is he tanking, but he's attacking back. And depending on how well you build him for damage, there is good potential there. Against like things like sustained DPS, I don't think that this is the best place for him there. And then AoE DPS is kind of in that same boat where, yes, he does have some AoE damage in his kit, but it's not going to be as reliable as like an AoE mage. So for that reason, I wouldn't say him for that. For sustained DPS, he does do damage, and if you do need to block the units like very reliably, I could say yes, that makes sense. But typically fighters are a bit better, or some of your platform champions will be a bit better or serve a little bit more value in the sustained category. When it comes to raids, I'm going to try to speed up through this section. I've had a bunch of players say that I kind of dwindle too long here. In the marksman, he has really no place unless you're just leeching experience. In the other three, he's absolutely amazing. Anywhere where you need a tank and you need to stop things from reaching your crystal, he's absolutely going to do that job and fill it very well. In things like Guild Boss, there is a cheese strategy that you can do, so we've already talked about that. And then in Material Raid, this is a place where he absolutely can thrive. Now here we can see that I have 5 Nightmare Champions, specifically. And right now, Artifact Raid Boss is different, so this timing might be a little wonky for me. But if we let him get close enough here, and right now I have him just in all defensive gear. Excellent. But with Vortex healing him, now Vortex is a very strong healer on this account. I do not want to say that he is like the strongest on this account. He is just, yes, very strong on this account. So he's going to do his job very well.
Let me handle it.
But as we can see, if we time out so that normally this is Salazar, so this giant troll, if he's halfway in between his one step and his next step, we can actually hit him from all four of these slots being next to him.
Your queen has arrived.
But here, Baron is not only doing his job, but he's absolutely, tanking, and he is doing some damage back. And even better, in my case, is that he counts towards all the nightmares. So him being a nightmare tank does synergize with the wrath that you get on the account, and then any other nightmares that you might have. So for this reason alone, I think Baron kind of does jump up a little bit in ratings of usefulness for sure. Right now, the Baron I'm showing off is 5-star and 5-star promoted.
You shall all vanish.
Well, that's not good. I wonder who has his gear. Alright, I'll have to fix that later. It's really funny because I was just about to do a whole bunch of artifact raids, and him not having gear is not ideal. In Tide, he's a very good champion for Tide. The fact that you can build him as a tank and a damage dealer, I think will let him do a bit more in Tide, and then the fact that his shield bursts for AoE damage, or his passive will burst for AoE damage, his ability to last in Tide and delay things in Tide, I think makes him extremely valuable. I would definitely not underestimate him in Tide. If you think like your resource raid, your EXP and gold raid, we have that choke point on the map. You can absolutely plop him there and then have fighters either all 3 spaces lined up in front of him to stop anything from ever getting through, or you could put things like Ein behind him to be doing damage from behind, or any other ranged grounded unit. And then just him being able to block 3 units is very valuable. The fact that he is a damage dealer has him provide more damage. I actually did want to show this off a little bit better because I started just kind of summoning out of habit. The damage that Baron does specifically.
I ascend from the inferno.
So here we can see he's hitting for 310, and then a second hit hits for 62. So again, that's his passive going off. Now, obviously this damage isn't impressive. However, right now he's wearing Olog's gear, so right now he is just designed to live. We're not expecting his damage to be nuts. I do want to do some testing. However, I have not done any testing of just building him full damage. So we might explore that together towards the end of this video. Gear raids. Gear raids is a very interesting place for him. Gear raid 2, he's absolutely going to thrive on an enormous level. His ability to shield himself and the fact that it's on a low cooldown, you absolutely could just wait until the boss starts to ground pound and then just shield yourself during it, and you're kind of guaranteed to live through it. And if you weren't guaranteed to live through it, your passive will guarantee that you live through it. So absolutely phenomenal here. In Gear Raid 1, again, having a damage dealing tank could be useful, or if you find that things are breaking through your walls too quickly, there is the argument, yes, you could summon him out to give Wrath that extra 5% attack bonus, as well as have your wall take a little bit less damage, and kind of, I don't want to say trick your enemies, but can cause the enemies to target him more often, and your mages, as they are attacking over him or clearing the content around him, the new enemies then have to stop to either attack him or wait until 3 are blocked before they can pass through him. So he can buy some very valuable time, and then his Undying ability, he can be healed during that, by the way, can give you some precious time in this level. I don't necessarily want to say that's like a very dependable way of doing things, but I do want to mention it is there. Gear Raid 3, this is a place I don't feel like he has a good home in. The small caveat I will mention is that there are certain depths into it that you get where Zillatu will start attacking your last place champion. So in the event that you don't know what else to put out, or you have out your piercers and a healer or 2 healers, but they're dying, something that you might want to do then is consider, maybe I'll place a tank out so that Zillatu will attack that tank. And this is specifically good if you don't have a ground unit that can attack flying units. Otherwise, you would probably just do one of them and they would be bulky enough. But there is something to be said about having Baron just sit out there, tanking a whole bunch of damage. And again, you can do that for EXP as well. Faction trials, which I apparently have forgotten to do today, so I need to make sure to get those done right after this video. When it comes to the nightmares, I am finally up to a level in purple that 100% requires Baron. I've definitely hit a wall where I need a pure tank, not an off tank. So he is on my list to get 6-starred eventually. The problem is I have so many nightmares compared to all the other factions, and right now I'm trying to boost up all my factions to being in reliable purple insignias. There's certain ones like Cultist where I'm there, but it's a rough battle, like an overly rough battle. Infernals, I don't think I'm there, so I'm kind of confused why they're showing me a purple one, but I can't look because that was like yesterday, I believe. But yeah, in the nightmares, he is your main tank. He is going to be your best tank for sure. So if you feel like you're struggling with gear, or not struggling with gear, but if you're struggling with nightmares, Baron is a very worthwhile tank to build up, and his survivability will be huge. This is where you could pair him most easily with a mage like Sorzus, but there's also the mage Novris, which I feel a lot of people do have. Baron being able to delay for Novris to output all of his damage is very useful. Him doing damage as well can't be unspoken. Alright, let's try a damage version before we end this video. I'm going to give Olog back his gear as quickly as I can muster. Please bear with me because this is going to be sloppy. But yeah, that was our full tank Baron specifically. So if we move things around, okay, so we're at rings. We want that to be HP percentage. And then we'll take that off of HP percentage. But yeah, he was still using yellows in this video, and as we saw, he was tanking perfectly fine. Where's our Baron boy? Let's see if we do the craziness of... Cerberus has the gear. Okay. I've recently been trying to give only certain champions like certain gear when I pass it back and forth, and I was gonna try to push my artifact rate a little bit further. So I got confused of what is where. So this will be the true test for him, 100%, because if he's able to survive with damage gear on, I would be quite impressed. His damage stat, I would argue, is not good enough that this makes sense to do. I would definitely build him as a bruiser.
I ascend from the Inferno. Ready or not, this is war.
So here we're seeing he actually can tank. Vortex is healing him and giving him a shield, but as a pure damage dealer, right now at 5-star, he's hitting for 11,000 consistently. Now, this is some of my best gear, but this does mean you potentially could build him 100% damage, and he's just a tank by coincidence. And that is very, very impressive to see. Now, it's not Titus's damage, but Titus is nearly twice the cost. But his ability to tank, and then also, while he's in that unyielding state, which we haven't shown off, so I guess let's do that real quick. Oh no, I have a shield! Suck it. So here he's starting to leech life back because I have Volca out. I completely forgot about that.
Don't touch me.
But then yeah, here's his undying state. He's just not dying, and he's constantly leeching life back until he finally does fall. So Damage Baron, I would argue, is usable. I mentally think for me, that is not the reason I would want to use a specific defender. However, I do want to point out that in damage gear, yes, he can put in work. He's not going to be... He's not going to underwhelm. He was still tanky enough to tank, especially with that ultimate. If I had stayed on top of that ultimate, and as you saw with the healer, he was tanking just fine and doing damage just fine. So very good potential from Baron. Very interested in him as a champion now. Kind of confused why his tankiness seemed just as good with all tank gear on versus all damage gear on. So pretty hilarious. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the video today. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below. If you want to join us over on twitch.tv/sprinklebeard, I do stream every day, Sunday through Wednesday, semi-reliably until my work's overtime picks back up, and then I'll get back to my very inconsistent streaming. Right now we're doing mostly Watcher of Realms content and playing some Lies of P, so if that sounds like your cup of tea, come join us. Thank you very much for watching, and until that next time.